It's what you're doing, making me feel like I'm falling. And when you're moving, I can hear my calling. There's no one else here that I see but you. It's what you're doing that's making me feel like I'm falling. Yeah, I'm falling in love.
Hey guys, I'm Angel.
And I'm Melissa, and together we're Forever Honeymooning.
What is Forever Honeymooning? We are a channel dedicated to our eternal honeymoon, which includes all kinds of different things, travel tips, RV tips, and today's topic, hiking tips. So one of the things that we really like to do is we like to go hiking. In fact, we hike all the time on the weekends, even if we're at home. But when we're traveling, like we did over the last year, we hike hundreds and hundreds of miles. In fact, last year in 2020, we went to over 30 national parks, dozens of state and local parks, and we've hiked all over the place.
So one of the things that we always find quite surprising is how many people seem to be unprepared. There are oftentimes longer hikes we'll be on where people don't even have water.
You know, whether you're going for a mile, well, I say that, but sometimes I'm too lazy to bring my pack, or 20 miles. You want to make sure that you have a day pack that has some essential items. And those essential items are behind us, and we're going to talk about those.
And he says, even if you're going 1 mile, but quite frankly, he makes fun of me. So these things are the things that I always have on my bag, because when you're hiking with him, even if it's just for an overlook, you never know where he's going to go, what he's going to find, and we may end up coming back hours later.
What do you mean, like Dinosaur Valley?
It happens.
Yes, we have. We've been to a number of different places where we thought we were going for a quarter mile, and 12 miles later, I'm wishing I had my pack. And so we're going to start with talking about things that come with us no matter what, but we'll also talk about different things that we carry, depending on the weather, depending on the terrain, depending on the length. I'm going to start with the most important thing that Melissa has in her pack. She will not go anywhere without this item, especially hiking, and that is lip balm. She uses natural ice, and we're not talking the good, refreshing natural ice. We're talking lip balm, and this thing is always with her. And I kid around, but it does come in handy, and I actually use it on a regular basis.
Making sure it has an SPF, whichever one you choose. But most important, other than the chapstick, is going to be your water. You always want to make sure you're hydrated. We typically start hydrating on our way to our hikes, but I always make sure I have my water bladder. We usually have them in our backpacks. Some people choose to carry the hydro flasks, but this is one of the most important things you can do. So not only the chapstick, but the other most important thing to me is making sure you have enough water. It is very important to remain hydrated, even if it's a colder climate or a humid environment. You don't realize sometimes how dehydrated you can get. So typically on our way to hikes, we will actually start hydrating, especially since we drink coffee in the mornings. Always good idea to start ahead of time so that when you're out there, you're not using your bladder before you get to your actual destination and on your hike. And typically we have water in the car for when we return, just in case. But that leads me into item number, 3 now, is going to be paper. So gentlemen, you are lucky if you need to go and there are not facilities. That's usually not a problem. But as a lady, sometimes you need to step around a bush and you want to bring paper so that you can wipe up. But also important in that is bring a baggie. You need to pack in what you bring out with you. Do not leave that out in the forest. Always take back with you what you're going to be taking out.
Absolutely, yeah, it's unfortunate. And you know, little things too, like you see dog waste in a plastic bag they leave on the trail. Stop doing that, please. I mean, just let your dog go if you're going to leave the plastic. But
the animals go. Yeah,
they do on a regular basis. Hike it in, hike it out. The next thing that we carry, and it's always with us, is going to be some food. So, you know, you may be only going for a mile, but you never know what's going to happen. Maybe you get lost, maybe you get injured, and you do need some replenishment. And so we'll carry small things, fruit bars. We also carry some of these like energy chews and stuff like that. So I'll carry maybe some dry beef jerky. You want to carry things that are light, but you want to make sure that you have enough with you to sustain you for a day or two.
Another item that has come in handy many times for us, and also for some other people we've met and found on the trail, is your headlamp. Headlamps have saved us so many times. Like I mentioned, we tend to, sometimes lose our way, but we also tend to wander off on our own. So oftentimes hikes we take, we may end up coming back a lot later than we initially intended. So having a headlamp, having some extra batteries in case your batteries are older or they run out, is always something worthwhile to keep with you. And we've actually ran into gentlemen on hikes 2 days in a row that were in some not great terrain with steep cliffs and edges, and luckily we were able to help guide their way because they had a phone they were using that had almost no battery left.
Yeah, your phone is not going to be used for your light, but what your phone can be used for, and it is one of our essential items, we bring it all the time, and it's not to just post on Instagram. You actually will need your phone for GPS. So all trails, different apps like that, Google Maps, although Google Maps can lead you astray sometime. You want to have a phone and you want it fully charged, because if you get out there in backcountry and you get lost, you can actually go and your GPS signal more than likely is going to work. Except maybe at White Sands. For some reason, I don't know what the military's got going on there, but that stopped working. But everywhere else we've been able to utilize the phone. Not that I ever get us lost, but you can use the phone to get your way back. And you also want to have a backup power source. So we carry two different, we each carry an energy source that can recharge your phones multiple times. And Melissa actually is a smart one because she carries a solar one. That does actually work. So you can charge your phone over and over and over again with that.
And that one even actually has a compass and a light. So sometimes it's good to have some backups available. Another source we use for that GPS, two other sources, maps.me.
Right, that's a great app.
And then what did we use in New Mexico? Strava.
Strava, oh yes, Strava. Absolutely. We actually use Strava all the time. So a lot of people use Strava to measure how many miles you biked or how many miles you hiked, how many you walked, but we use it to get us back to where we came from, especially White Sands.
So even in New Mexico where the GPS signal was messed up, they actually have signs reporting not to rely on your GPS devices. So not just phones, but Strava worked well enough that we were able to trace our way back on our trail. So just little things like that, sometimes you don't think about, you end up using for other reasons.
Now, you can also use your watch. I carry a Garmin Fenix 5 S Plus A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever it is. On my watch, I has GPS tracking. It also has like a breadcrumbs app that you can use to trace back your steps. But honestly, I don't think I've ever used it for that. It's always about Strava. I use it more for my altimeter, my O2 sensor. So if we're at higher altitude and I'm at 60, 70%, I know we've got some issues that we got to deal with. But the watch can be very useful for that. And you can always trace back to just good old compasses. So we do carry these paracord wristbands that have a compass built into them. They also have a whistle, which sounds weird, but you actually may need that whistle. And then of course you can use the paracord for tying things up, whether you need to do it with an emergency tent or who knows what. And it even has a small blade that you can use for cutting small limbs, or if there's some reason you need to cut the paracord.
You hope to never want to use one of those, but just in case, there's been many times where hikers have slipped off the trail, hurt themselves, been unable to scream, but if you have that with you, you can hopefully make enough noise that someone will be able to find you. So some of the things we talk about and carry on a regular basis may seem kind of silly, but could really come in handy in the long run. So something as small as this, there's no reason not to carry it.
And we each carry our own. Now the other thing is I make sure to always carry makeup with me in case I'm gonna do a photo shoot out there with a bear or something like that. No, what we actually do is carry a mirror with us. You can use a mirror for signaling in case you're lost in the woods. Well, the woods probably wouldn't work, but if you're out lost in the desert, where we usually are hiking, you can actually have a mirror. And this is a makeup case, and the reason for that though is it protects the mirror in that. So we can use that for a number of different reasons.
Another thing, if you're doing a lot of hiking in the desert, is a comb. We learned when our son slid down a hill on his derriere, that these come in really handy to get out the stickers. Yeah. So you can just get those out. Again, item that's small, doesn't take up much space, and really lightweight. And
they're great, so that way I can get ready for the shot as well with my hair. But you can also use them for bee stingers, I guess they would call it. And you can use it just like you would a credit card to scrape that out. That brings us to some of the tools that we always carry with us. A knife is critically important, and you can imagine the different reasons that you would need a knife, but also a multi-tool. So we'll take a pair of pliers and all of the other features of a multi-tool. And both of these can be used for a number of different reasons. Sometimes it's just a matter of cutting up food, or if you're gonna have to start a fire, you can use it to cut up some things. The knife I carry actually is serrated, and it can cut through smaller pieces of wood.
Other things that we typically carry on a regular basis are gonna be Band-Aids, moleskin, When you're on that hike, sometimes even if you haven't had any blisters in your feet and you've worked in your shoes, there's always that occasion where something may go wrong, your socks may be binding up. So it's always best to have something to keep your feet protected, because if you get way back there and your feet are hurting, you kind of got to have something to help keep them comfortable, since your feet are going to be carrying you back out.
And that brings up a good point, and that is not only having a good pair of socks on your feet, having a backup pair of socks. So whether your feet get wet while you're hiking, although we both wear waterproof shoes, you know, sometimes you go in and it comes over the sides. You want a pair of dry hiking socks on your feet, and you want a second pair in your bag.
So typically before we start hiking, we layer up with sunscreen. We know we're going to be out in the sun, even if it's supposed to be a shaded hike or an overcast day. Conditions often change, so you want to be prepared. So typically we start with our sunscreen on, but as the day progresses, if you start sweating or you're out there longer than you think, it's always a good idea to have some sunscreen on you, with you, available to layer up and protect yourself.
And that reminds me, so during the day, you obviously want to protect your skin from the sun, but in the evening, you want to protect yourself from the bugs. And so there are a number of different things, you know, off and all these different sprays that are out there. We actually carry one that's like an oil-based Terra Shield. A friend gave this to us up in Oregon. We started using it. I didn't really like the smell, but the good thing is the bugs don't either. And ever since we started using it, we've never really had any issues. And those of you that follow our channel know that I've had some issues with bugs, ticks and stuff, and you want to make sure that you have something to keep them away from you. And so having a good bug spray is important.
So if a Band-Aid isn't enough, we also carry crazy glue, just in case you get that cut that's a decent one and you just kind of can't get it to stop bleeding. You're able to apply pressure, but you want to keep it shut. You don't want it to get cut on stuff. We found that super glue can be a good quick little trick. Put a little bit of that on there and help keep it sealed and keep it from getting the elements in there as well.
Melissa mentioned that we travel or hike often into the evening. That's because we love sunset. So a lot of times we are in backcountry at night and we're using our headlamps to get back. But if something happens and you need to have a fire, you want to have an easy way to start a fire. So we do have a little kit that, you know, you can try to get one started. Or the modern way is using a lighter. The other thing I carry with me, and I use this for barbecuing, a lighting cube that ignites almost instantly. And so you can use a piece of that, or you can use the whole thing to get your kindling going so that you can get a really strong fire going if necessary.
In addition to that, we also keep an emergency blanket in case you do get stuck overnight. You have this for a little more protection, keep you warm. Again, it's lightweight, it's small, it's not something that's going to be taking up a whole lot of extra room. No reason not to.
Yeah, we actually have an emergency tent, I guess you would call it, very similar Mylar design, but it does come with stakes and a rope that you can tie off and essentially create a little tent to hide in from the elements overnight if you have to. That reminds me, on another item that we carry that's of importance for safety or for dealing with an injury is a triangular bandage. So if you were to fall, injure one of your limbs, well, I guess your upper limbs, and you need to stabilize that, then you can use a triangular bandage for that. But it can also be used very effectively as a tourniquet. And so I have a tourniquet kit that we keep on the boat, and it can be used, but I found that a triangular bandage used, folded over, can be used the same way. I hope we never have to use this, but I want to have it just in case. And the last two things that we make sure to take with us all the time is medicine. We carry a little thing of medicine. Each of us carry our own. Things you don't even think about. We've got Imodium in there. We've got Advil and Aleve. Aspirin. You never know if you meet somebody on the trail that's having chest pain, maybe experiencing a heart condition. You can utilize aspirin for that. You can give it to them. They'll know whether to take it. Obviously, you follow appropriate first aid guidelines. I also have some Rolaids. You never know when you're going to get heartburn, and hiking 4 or 5 miles with heartburn is the worst. And so I carry a number of different things and a medicine kit, and Melissa does as well. And of course, we film videos for YouTube channel, and so we carry with us our GoPro. Not quite the high quality of a camera like this, but the GoPro does great in most environments. And so if you drop it, it's very secure. We also carry at least 2 spare batteries, so that way you don't get an incredible wildlife view and your battery just dies. You want to make sure that you have backup batteries for you. Now let's talk about some of the other things that we don't necessarily carry all the time, but you want to carry in certain environments. Okay, so now, depending on the environment we're going to be in, we may pack some additional things. And so we have a few of those things with us. I always like to start my day in a long sleeve t-shirt, and I will wear a long sleeve t-shirt as long as I can tolerate it. If it starts to get really, really hot, then I will take that off. But I like to keep the sun, I'm already relatively dark. I want to keep the sun off of my skin as much as possible. But I also pack a wicking, thin, lightweight shirt in my bag, so that way I can change out into it as we go along throughout the day. And then vice versa, if it's a warmer day, I may start with a short sleeve shirt and switch into a long sleeve after the sun sets.
I, on the other hand, tend to layer. So rather than carrying my extra clothes with me, I learned very quickly in our trip when we were in a cold environment, I wore a long sleeved wicking shirt, and then I brought additional layers on top of that. But we ended up doing some hikes in a valley, and it got up to probably about 80 degrees, and I was far too warm. So now anytime I go hiking, I'm gonna have my hiking pants on, I'm gonna have a tank top on top of my tank top, I'm probably gonna have my long sleeve lightweight wicking shirt. In addition to that, I will also bring my jacket, a down jacket. Obviously, if I'm hiking in the desert, maybe Joshua Tree, unless it's winter, I'm probably not going to bring the down jacket. Depending on the day, depending on how long we're going to be out there, I will probably bring that, just so that gives me a lot of flexibility on temperature, on condition changes, because that happens a lot depending on where you are at. So I bring gloves, so I can layer gloves off and on. Sometimes I bring 2 different layers, one thin layer that's more dexterous, and then more waterproof layer that I can throw on over depending on the change in conditions. In addition, I will bring ear covers. My ears get very cold, especially if I have my hair pulled back, and in windy environments. I will bring ear covers and a beanie. I will bring both. So again, depending on the environment, sometimes if it's real windy, even when it's warm, my ears get cold, so I can put those on, but then the beanie for the times that it's really cold.
I carry very similar things, and you really got to be careful about the type of environment you're in. So we hiked Mount Washburn up in Montana, and we started the hike in like a tank top, and by the time we got up to the top, or not even close to the top, the wind picked up, temperatures dropped radically, so we were in fleece with thick down jackets and beanies on. It also happened to us in October in Moab, in Arches. We started the day in t-shirts. It was a nice warm morning. Winter storm came in, it dropped to 12 degrees and it started snowing. And so you want to make sure that you carry with you what you need for your anticipated weather and even some extreme weathers. Now, Melissa mentioned Southern California, usually pretty safe. Joshua Tree, you're in Mecca, you're in some of these, in parts of Arizona, probably not going to need a down jacket, so we don't always carry it. But we do carry different levels of gloves too. So in the extreme areas, we were hiking canyonlands and it was well below freezing, close to zero. We carried with wind, yeah, very strong wind too. So we carried some nice thick gloves, nice thick beanie, and then of course a thicker jacket. If you're in other areas where it's not going to be as cold, but there's a chance of rain, and if you're in the Southwest or really anywhere in the summer, there's a good chance that a thunderstorm may happen. And so I'll carry a small rain jacket that'll help keep me dry. Even though I wear wicking clothes, it's uncomfortable, and you could actually have some exposure problems if you get too cold from being wet. And so I'll carry that with me as well. And I don't always carry this, but I do it pretty regularly. I carry a tripod that I can place my phone, because I don't carry an extra camera. I use my phone as a camera. I can place it on with a little remote so we can get into some of these cool areas. A lot of times we hike up to summits and then we're on the edge of a rock, and a selfie just doesn't do it justice. So I'll take out the tripod and we can take a nice safe picture using that, so we can make sure our footing is good, and we're not trying to walk and do all that at one time.
Speaking of walking and difficulties, poles can come in handy. So poles are always a good thing to bring, especially if you have an injury, you sprain an ankle on the route. I don't typically use them going up, but oftentimes coming down. If you're in really rocky territory or it's slippery gravel, it's always good to have something that you can use to kind of transfer your weight or help stop a slide.
And just a few other things that we'll carry along with us. We carry 2 to 3 liters of water in a camelback, but we also have a water filtration kit. So it's a 1 liter bottle that self-filtrates, and it'll get down to 0.01 microns. You don't want to be drinking water out of the stream. Giardia and all these different bacteria that are out there really could make you sick, and then you're definitely going to need that Imodium you brought. We may carry extra food, maybe some refreshments. Just depends on how long you're going to be gone. And most importantly, this is a day pack. Our packs are not designed for overnight trips. They're not designed for multi-day trips. They're basically designed to carry us, which we often do, from sunrise to just after sunset. So we don't take the trip planning on staying overnight, but we do have some equipment that's with us to ensure that if we have to, if there's an injury, and if you're just lost, which I never get us lost. I prove it. We're here in front of the camera. We've made it back every time you said we were lost. But we do want to make sure that we're pretty safe. And frankly, 90% of the stuff we carry, we don't use. We use water, we use snacks, we use camera, and Melissa will definitely use, headlamps we use regularly.
Like we said, he never gets us lost. We just might not be back on time.
On a regular basis. But all of this stuff, we find to be critical, and it's really not that heavy. So the next thing we want to talk about is, how do we carry all this? And so let's introduce you to our day packs. Now, there are so many different day packs out in the market, and I'll be honest with you, I carried a relatively, we both did for a long time, a relatively small 2-liter, well, it's probably a 10-liter, but it carries 2 liters of water, outdoor products. The bag really did well. It just doesn't provide the level of back support, and it get a little bit warmer. If it's a short hike though, if we're only gonna go out for an hour or two, then I will still carry a smaller pack like this. And the other thing I like about this pack is the number of pockets. It's got pockets everywhere. And I wish the larger packs that we had actually had as many pockets. And we're gonna have to show you some of the things we use to keep things separated in our other bags.
So I actually found it a little bit difficult to have all the warmer gear. So as we were getting to the colder climates and temperatures, trying to stuff my beanie, my gloves, my jackets in the day was a little bit much. This one wasn't working really great to get my down jacket with all the other warm items in it. So I did upgrade to a slightly larger bag. It is a Skimmer 28. It's got a main pocket, it's got expandable pockets here, but really this is a good size for me because as you can tell, even if it's a day hike and it's short, it can be really compact. We have a lot of hikes that will do at national parks, for example, we'll do multiple hikes in a day. So this is a really versatile bag that is big enough to fit my jacket if I need to take it with me, but it also can shrink down and be small enough that I don't have to have that packed on hikes that I don't need it, and I still don't have to worry about trying to jump from one bag to another just depending on what the day holds. So lots of pockets, lots of good things. You might want to be careful because squirrels are pretty handy, and I think they stole one of my little poles here, zipper poles, when trying to get to my goods and my snacks, so be careful for squirrels. So as Angel mentioned, this does carry almost everything, but when I found we were doing the hikes where either it was an early morning hike and I was bundled and then I needed to remove that once the sun came out, or the reverse of that, I was having a hard time trying to fit my beanie, my gloves, and my down jacket in that bag all together. It was putting a lot of stress and strain on the bag. So I did end up upgrading to this bag. It's a 28 liter, which is really kind of perfect for me. I don't think I've ever gotten it really packed up very full, but it's a lot more comfortable. The straps are a lot better, more supportive. I actually wish I would have upgraded a long time ago because it's just so much more comfortable and it sits better overall. It does allow for a lot of expansion. It does have a lot of pockets that I need. Just be careful with the squirrels. They might steal your little poles on your zipper trying to get to your food.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. We were hiking in Utah and decided to go down into a cave, so we had to leave our bags out because the hole we were going into was pretty small, and we come out and the squirrels are trying to get to her food and they're pulling the zipper back, and the little boogers actually took the pull with them. I like the Gregory packs. I actually have a Zulu 30 pack. It's a 30-liter pack that for me provides a better level of support. I really like the back brace that they have. It keeps it an inch or two off of your back and provides pretty good structural support so that you're carrying the weight in the right spot. It's adjustable, so you can slide it up and down so that it fits with your height. The other thing is it has plenty of pockets. So like I mentioned with the outdoor products bag, I still like their pockets better. So Gregory, if you're listening, add a few extra compartments. We'd love that, but it does fit everything. The other day we went hiking. It was a relatively short hike, 3 or 4 hours, but I wanted to really spend more time with more weighting this. So I threw an extra pair of hiking shoes, extra water. I actually carried a lot of Melissa's stuff in my pack, and it did great. So after 5 hours or 4 hours, I still felt very comfortable. I didn't have nearly as much sweat on my back. So it's really important to get a good bag. This is the 30 liter, and it's good for pretty much any day hike, but I'm gonna show you my 40 liter as well. I really like the Zulu brand, and with Gregory Zulu, I have a 30 liter and a 40 liter. And so the 40 liter is obviously quite a bit larger. It holds substantially more. It's probably not quite to the backpacking level. So if I was gonna do a 3 or 4 day night hike, or a 3 or 4 day overnight hike, maybe could get most of my stuff in here, probably not, especially when you have to put in a bear box and things like that for food. But it definitely would work for a night or two. It's just as comfortable, it has all the same supports, but it provides you a lot more storage. So regardless of what you choose, any pack that you are comfortable in and has good coverage for all of your equipment is gonna work. And frankly, if you're just going to day pack and you're not doing this, seriously, where you're going out every weekend and you're really worried about that extreme comfort, you could throw it in your old school backpack. Just make sure that the stuff you carry is in that pack and that you bring it with you all of the time.
Hopefully this helps explain a little bit about why we carry what we carry and gives you a good idea of how to start preparing so that you will be safe on any type of trip that you want to take. I'm sure we've forgotten something. If there's something you want to share with us that we need to add to our packs or something that you like, please feel free to leave it in the comments.
And if you enjoyed the video, do us a favor, give us a like. And if you want to watch more of Forever Honeymooning's adventures, click on the subscribe button below, as well as the little bell so you'll be notified every time a new video posts. Most importantly, get out there and enjoy the adventure.